This is Vitika and James. We're kicking off talking through the project quality dashboard MVC, specifically the design and solution validation components, which Vitika is going to be working on in 14.1. So I have an agenda up here. And so I wanted to just talk through some of the things that, just to provide context for you, because you haven't been in the loop with testing lately, to make sure you're up to date. So overall, our business goal here is we want to drive existing Ultimate users to this view and then to other subsequent paid views. So the data points that we already have, or the data views that we already have, are the group code coverage. That is a premium feature. We want to take those Ultimate customers, have them see this top level quality type data view, and then be able to drive into others. We also think there's an opportunity to drive them to using other features if we expose them to gaps in that data. So those are that's the opportunity I see today. So there's assumptions that we want to test with this design as part of our solution validation. Where users are looking for this data, we know that they have a hard time finding it in our current left nav, for lack of a better term, where they always end up in analytics CI/CD. The existing data views that we have today are in repository, and that's just not an intuitive place for people to look for code coverage. It will continue to not be a good place for them to look for things like browser performance or load testing or other top level, not repository related metrics. So validating that or getting something that's intuitive for them to find is important here. And then we want to make sure that our data presentation is a valuable thing to them. We want to give them a data, or we're assuming that if we give them a data point of here's where things are at today and a reference point for here's where they have been in the past, that gives them enough direction to say, oh, I need to go dig into this and see what is wrong. That they do need that additional context, but they don't need much additional context. That's the assumption that we're testing. So we think that will help you simplify the design. It doesn't have to be a bunch happening in this top level view. And then later on, as we design other views of specific category data, we can expand on that and show them more data, longer graphs, whatever the right data view for those specific things is. So any questions on kind of that top level, the goal, the opportunity, and the assumptions we want to test?
So I wanted to check, like, I know that you had a wireframe-ish design up on one of the issues. I saw that. So, I mean, there's an idea that what the solution could look like. But apart from that, has this been worked on by any designer before?
Not at all.
Got it.
That was just me putting together a very, very quick sketch of, and it was really to talk through with engineering. Is it feasible to get data like this and present it in a way like this? I didn't reference pajamas or anything like that. We want to use as much off-the-shelf components, as many off-the-shelf components as we can for speed, because this is a lot of a test, and later for consistency with the rest of the look of the site. So. Okay.
Another question that I have is, it says project quality dashboard, and I think in your previous video that you had recorded, you also mentioned that what is, like, how would users interpret this quality? Like, what all they expect to see in that? So does it, right now, what the proposal is, does it only touches upon putting testing related information on the project quality dashboard?
Yeah, and we're not stuck on the name either. The name may change. I tried to not use the word dashboard, but it was really hard to not use the word dashboard. It's really just, here's data about the quality of your project. And when people talk about quality, they're usually talking about tests or performance or things like that. But I think there's potentially a fine line to walk between that and monitoring as we talk about how this is running in production. So performance could be confused with that if we start heading that direction. So I'm assuming, this is another assumption that we should call out. Users look for this type of data in analytics something and use the word quality to reference it. I know, excuse me, based on discussions I've had in Slack when users are finding that test case area or requirements, I don't remember which one it is in the interface, they think that it's about testing, but it's really about fulfilling requirements at a compliance level that Mark Wood and the compliance team, not compliance, I forgot Mark's team's name, but they put together. And there's really no connection between the testing and the test reports that we consume and generate data views for and that. So that's a potential area of confusion as well. So we can test that assumption of, is quality the right word here? And maybe we need to field a survey to validate that, or maybe we need to do some of the usertesting.com with just something really simple as a click through of just the left nav, like show them a view of the dashboard and say, we want you to go find this. And maybe it doesn't have a name on it. And they go figure out where it is that gives them that view. That might be a way to quickly validate the right name.
Right. Yeah, this is what I was thinking too. I mean, this workflow kind of fits to at least get an idea about where do they go to see quality related information in the interface that exists today. And maybe if we put some data there, I mean, we can still think about that later, but maybe we can just put in questions like, are you satisfied with the information that you're seeing here? Does this convey the quality of the project? So they can voice their interpretation, like what they expected versus what they see there. Yeah, user testing might be a good way.
I think that there's a big opportunity there because a lot of that is dependent on how much you've set up for your project. If you're only running unit tests and giving us the test report, but not coverage data, you're not running code quality, you have no performance testing, you're not doing accessibility testing. I think that there's an opportunity to show those panels as empty and then give them a link into documentation to drive them to figure out how it could work. So that's as we continue down, the first parts are really validating these assumptions, but I think that later there's an opportunity for that we might want to explore. And we don't need to incorporate that into the design. We can rebuild it later if we want to show extra cards, because who knows what other categories we're going to have in the future too. So
that's true. Yeah, we can provide some confusing options if in case we proceed with the user testing method of doing this. We can probably give some conflicting options which fall very close to each other. For example, we'll just provide the hotspots for those places and see where they click first. I mean, that communicates a lot in itself.
Okay. So yeah, goals for design, solution validation. We want to validate our assumptions. That using data we already have access to at the project level. That's the test data that we have through, I think through 5 user interviews with design, and it doesn't have to be clickable. Alternatively, we could go the user testing route to validate either the design and the navigation, but I would say we should try to do one and one only because we have a very limited amount of time. And you have a limited amount of time to get this done because you're also still working on other projects, but we also have the 14-1 milestone to work on this. So we want to try to slim that down as much as we can. So let's not try to bite off too much with that, which is all right, so you had a question about documented jobs to be done.
Yeah, so I was looking through this. Yeah, I think we don't. Sorry.
GitLab, we have accessibility. Oh, I should move those. Sorry, scrolling through jobs to be done, realizing I'd never moved the code quality jobs to be done. That's not our category anymore.
Okay.
So we have validated that. Where is it? Status of a project's test. Yes. When team leads do want to see trends of test coverage, they want to be able to see that that is a job that they need to do. That is a job to be done. And the maturity, our maturity there is graded out as a C. We did that as part of the category maturity scorecard, primarily around do we give a developer enough test data to do their job, and that graded out at a B. But where it really fell down was in how hard was it to complete the task of find me the test coverage over time. And that's where we ran into, they don't know where that view lives. There's not a great way to get to it from the project. There's not a great way to get to it from MRs. There's not a great way to get to it from the group. It was just really hard for them to find. So we have validated that job to be done. And I think that this just rolls up to a higher level of not just test coverage over time, but all of my team's quality metrics over time. And
okay.
So yes. Oh, you already like 2 more jobs to be done. Thanks.
So I think this also touches upon my next question. I don't know if that's placed somewhere close. Maybe we can use it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the next question that I have somewhere down in this agenda, which is very related to this, is what is the primary persona that we are looking at as the executor of
this is the application development director. So this is our
okay.
Dakota. Is that the right persona name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Dakota persona.
Okay. Yeah, I suspected so. So I did add, like, is it Priyanka or Dakota?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Okay, it's Dakota. Great. But you mentioned that tech leads might also like find some value in this. So
Yeah,
Delaney, maybe?
Yeah, we could choose either the Delaney or the Dakota. Thinking about this at tiered at ultimate, Dakota is the right persona for that, I think, because they're going to be looking, like they want to start at the project level, but eventually we might roll this view up to the group level so you can see across multiple groups.
Right.
Or across multiple projects within a group, rather. Sorry. So I would say for our recruitment purposes, either of them will be fine. It'll probably be easier to get the Delaney persona. Just the pool of them is bigger. So.
Okay, I might know a few users already for GitLab, especially GitLab CI, who fall in the Dakota area, but they are, I would say they're kind of in charge of smaller teams, like they are not a part of big organizations. So do you have any preference for the organization size? Okay.
I think that's okay, because I think that these quality, like ultimately who we're going to be selling these into and the people buying Ultimate or the organizations buying Ultimate are probably bigger anyway. But I think that when we boil down the problem, it applies the same. At a project view, what are you seeing? So.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, so we can come to this point, which was earlier in the agenda for about my bandwidth. So I have added the issue for my planning, and there you'd see I have allotted like enough time for both the design as well as the solution validation for this. So I would be available.
Awesome. And I think if I'm looking at our Epic roadmap, so we'll be working on any sort of internal or any sort of endpoint that we need to drive data for test execution during 14.2. We'll actually do that in the front end interface in 14.3. So we have some time in 14.2 where if you want to hand off the end of solution validation to me, I can get it over the finish line. That's fine. Or I can finish up that project. That will be just fine. So that you can transition back off. So let's make sure that we're partnering on that solution validation as much as we can. So that would be a seamless transition, because I think we only have your availability during 14.1. We don't want to encroach on 14.2, but I would expect that design and solution validation all happening within one milestone is a pretty aggressive timeline. So let's see what we can do early to make sure it's successful if we need to bleed over.
Sure. If I see this kind of encroaching upon the next milestone, I'll speak with Jackie to maybe extend this a little bit, because I think we have had a discussion once already that it might become difficult to do a lot of work in a single milestone. So this might just seep in into the next one. So that's not a problem, I think.
Okay. All right. So then next steps for recruitment.
So I have an idea around this that first I'll go ahead and see the solution validations which are happening on user testing. And I'll try to see if they're facing any problem doing that there so that, we are prepared for any kind of problems. And in case, if it shows that it's not the best way to conduct a solution validation, then we can go the usual path and recruit users.
That sounds good.
Because honestly, I haven't done any solution validation on user testing yet. I have done other researches, but not validation.
I think we should probably create the recruitment issue and get the Qualtrics form ready in the meantime, and I can tackle that. I can do that so that you can focus on the design part early.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. And I'll just CC you or also assign that to you so that you can keep track of that as we go.
Yeah, that will work. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, this one is covered. The next question is covered. The next is, how would we handle iteration during initial design? So we stay aligned. I wanted to know, like, is this about the design that I would be working now, or are you concerned about the improvements that kind of we have to work on after the validation?
The design we're working now, I just want to make sure that we're iterating through it as quickly as we can, and that you're not waiting on feedback from me, especially given our time zone difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to ping you on the issues, of course, like you and maybe a front-end engineer or back-end engineer or front-end engineer that you direct me to, like who I should be keeping in loop for that design. And in case I feel that I need some urgent input from you, I'll reach out to you over Slack.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, if the design is living in the issue, I think that'll be the easiest way for us to all interact. And in the design tab or in comments, whichever you prefer is fine.
Okay.
Or I guess it's not a tab anymore. It's just the design area now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we've talked persona, we've talked, let's see, so let's use the design. And I'll have you just ping Scott, our acting EM or interim EM, because he has the front end background and he'll have the back end background as well, because he's worked on some of these views before, so he knows what kind of data we'll need.
Okay.
That gives our sole front end designer a little more bandwidth to, or not designer, our sole front end engineer a little more bandwidth to front end engineer this next milestone.
Okay. All right.
All right. So I included just the references here of what the earlier video that I recorded, a link to the epic that we're working and the design issue, which you've moved over into your epic. So then next steps are create the design for the MVC. You're going to tackle that one or do that. I will work on initiating recruitment. I'll also, if there's a discussion guide that you can point me at for solution validation, or I can dig up one of Juan's old ones, I can start from that. I can.
Sure.
I'm happy to do that so that we can fast track this a little bit more.
Okay, so I'll just create a document with all the fields and maybe just add some data that probably you are the best person to add the data at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can collaborate on that.
That sounds good. And then.
Yeah, so once the let's say the research has been concluded, what is expected as an outcome of that? Like, should I just communicate the insights that I kind of derive from after analyzing the information, or should I also come up with sort of recommendations, or we'll see it later, like what to do with that?
I think we'll see later. For me, the outcome is validating these assumptions. If we validated our assumptions with the design, I feel like the design will be okay for an MVC. We can then iterate on that design or toss that design and start over as we add more data views to it. But for me, this epic is going to be a big driver for us for our performance indicator of validating those ultimate users get value, and we can drive additional value in other categories for them once they see at the top level all the things they're missing. So validating this is a top level view they want is kind of that first step for me. And so that's what that's the assumption that we're really validating with the solution validation and getting this feature out there.
Okay, that's great.
Cool.
All right, so yeah.
All right.
We're through with the agenda.
Sweet, easy peasy. Well, I'll take my to-dos of creating the recruitment issue. I'll look for a discussion guide, just skeletal doc, and then I'll start filling that in. I'll get Caitlin up to speed on what kind of recruitment or the recruitment that we'll be looking for after we validate that user testing may or may not work, just so they're in the loop of what we're doing and why we're kind of slowing that portion down and then maybe speeding it up really quick. We may also just do the recruitment, and if we have usertesting.com and recruitment so that we get some qualitative feedback on the design potentially, I don't think that that's a bad thing. Just knowing that capacity for our recruiters is also not at ideal levels, let's say, right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I would start working on the design. And once I'm done with that, in the process, I'll also collaborate on the discussion guide with you. And apart from working on the design, I'll also look at the user testing, existing solution validation tests, and see how those panned out.
Fantastic. I have, just thinking about recruitment, in the back of my mind, I have a couple of customers that I've spoken to in the past that have wanted this kind of view that I'll reach out to and see if they'll be around for solution validation or up for it. So maybe we can, even if we do user testing, we might be able to get 2 or 3 qualitative bits of feedback as well from those customers.
Okay, and in case we decide to do that, there's I know 2 people who would fit the Dakota persona, so I would also reach out to them to see if they are willing to be a part of another research.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll upload this to Unfiltered. I don't think we set any customer names, so I should be able to just post it.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Vitika. Appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Yeah.
Cheers.
Have a good day. Bye.